Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn the topic of lifting of the corporate veil. Lifting of the corporate veil. Once a business is incorporated according to the provisions laid down in the Companies Act 2013, it becomes a separate legal entity. An incorporated company, unlike a partnership firm which has no identity of its own, has a separate legal entity of its own which is independent of its shareholders and members. Now coming to what is a veil, corporate veil. So a company is composed of members and is managed by the board of directors and its employees. When the company is incorporated, it is accorded the status of being a separate legal entity which demarcates the status of the company and the members or the shareholder that it is composed of. The concept of differentiation is called the corporate veil, which is also referred to as the veil of incorporation. That is, the company and its members both are separate. A veil exists between the company and between the members or the shareholders of the company in order to protect the shareholders, in order to protect the members of the company from the liability, because ultimately the company will be held liable for any of the actions which has been done in the name of the company. So that's why a veil exists between the company and the shareholders or the members of the company. The facts of the case. Now we will study a case of Solomon versus Solomon. In this case, Solomon was running a business of boot making and leather merchant as a sole proprietor and transferred his business to Solomon Limited, incorporated with members comprising of his family and himself. The value paid to Solomon for such exchange was made with the assistance of shares and debentures having a floating charge on the resources of the company. The business was failed and was incurring losses. When the company's business failed, it went into liquidation. Solomon's right of recovery secured through the floating charge against the debentures stood at a priority against the creditors of the company. They contended that the Solomon Company are the one and the same. The liquidator on the behalf of unsecured creditors alleged that the company was fiction and was essentially an agent of Solomon. Solomon, being the principal, was made liable to pay the unsecured creditors. In other words, the liquidator disregarded the separate personality of the Solomon Limited, particularly from its members, making him liable personally for the acts of the company. As Solomon was the major shareholder of the company, he was made personally liable for the company's debt, and hence the issues were whether he is personally liable for the company debts regardless of the separate legal entity judgment. It was held that the company is a real and a legal company, fulfilling all the legal requirement, and it has an identity different from its members and shareholders. Therefore, the unsecured creditors are not to be paid at priority from the secured debentures. So the company will pay the secured debentures, and if anything will be left, will be paid out of the funds to the unsecured creditors. Now, lifting of the corporate veil. The advantages of the incorporation of the company, like perpetual succession, transferable shares, capacity to sue, flexibility, limited liability. Lastly, the company being accorded the status of separate legal entity, are by no means inconsiderable. Under no circumstances can these advantages be overlooked. As compared with them, the disadvantages are indeed very few. Yet some of them, which are immensely complicated, deserve to be pointed out. The corporate veil protects the members and the shareholders from the ill effects of the acts done in the name of the company. Let's say a director or a company defaults in the name of the company, the liability will be incurred by the company and not a member of the company who has defaulted. If the company incurs any debts or contravenes any law, the concept of corporate veil implies that the member of the company should not be held liable for these errors. Grounds under which the corporate veil is lifted: where the company is sham, that is, a company is committing any fraud. In this case, we will study the case of Guilford Motor Company versus Horn. Mr. Horn was a former managing director of Guilford Motor Home Company Limited. His employment contract stipulated a condition that he should not solicit the customers of the company once he leaves his job. Mr. Horn was fired from his job and position. Thereafter, he established a competing company with his wife, himself, and one of his friends who were the sole shareholders. The company established by the Horn was lower price tags than the Guilford Company. The shareholders started soliciting the customers of Guilford Motor Company. Guilford did not have any legal restraints against the Horn Company, only Horn himself. Guilford filed or commenced proceeding against Horn individually, claiming that the Horn Company was an attempt to evade legal obligation through soliciting customers. It was held that the company was set up to evade Horn contractual obligation and was used as an instrument of fraud to conceal Mr. Horn in illegitimate action. The court parsed the corporate veil and ordered an injunction against Horn. So the corporate veil was lifted in this very case because there was no separate legal entity between Horn and the Horn company. Therefore, Horn was held liable and he was asked to shut down his company. Next is the invocation of the principle of agency. In this case, under this point, we will study the case of RJ Films Limited. An American company financed the production of a film in India in the name of Britain Company. 90% of the shares in the British company was held by the president of the American company. The company had no business other than its registered office, and it had no staff also. Thereafter, the film, at the time of release, was refused by the Board of Trade to register it as a British film because the British company acted merely as an agent of the American company. It was held that the decision was valid in the view of the fact that British company acted merely as a nominee of the American company. In this case, the corporate veil was lifted and declared that the doctrine of separate legal entity does not mean that the company will act as a mere agent of the shareholders. Next is the public policy. In this case, in this point, we will study the case of Connors brother versus Connors. In this case, the act done by the members of the company led the court to lift the corporate veil to punish the offenders that the company had been formed to accomplish an act that is against the public policy. The principle was applied against the managing director who made use of his position to contrary to the public policy. The House of Lords determined the character of the company as an enemy company because the persons who were de facto were the residents of the Germany, which was at war with the British during that time. The alien company was not allowed to proceed with the action, which was directly or indirectly meant giving money to the enemy, thus was considered against the public policy. Determining the true character of the company. In this case, in this point, we will study the case of Daimler Company Limited versus Continental Tire and Rubber Company Limited. A private company was incorporated in England for the purpose of selling motor tires manufactured in Germany and was a Germany company. The Germany company has almost all the shares in their position, and all the directors of the company were the Germans. During the First World War, the English company commenced an action of recovery of trade debt. The House of Lords held that the company was an enemy company for the purpose of trading because its effective control of the management was in the hand of the Germans. The court held that it would against the public policy if there is a trade among them, and hence it was decided that the court will not be allowed to proceed with an action. Protection of revenue. The corporate veil may be ignored if the company is formed merely to evade tax. In the income tax commissioner, in this case Madras versus Shri Meenakshi Mills Madurai, the Supreme Court held that the income tax authority have the right in this case to lift the corporate veil. Sir Dinshaw. In this case, the assessee was a wealthy man enjoying large dividend and interest income. He formed 4 companies and agreed with each other to hold a block of investment as an agent for it. Income received was credited in the accounts of the company, but the company handed back the amount to him as pretended loan. Like this, he divided his income into 4 parts so that he can easily escape the tax liability. It was held that the company was formed only with the intention to evade tax, and the company was nothing but the assessee himself. He did not do any business except for helping the assessee to evade tax and to have a separate legal entity to superficially receive dividend and interest and then to hand it to them to the assessee as pretended loans. Coming to the statutory provisions in support of the lifting of the corporate veil, reduction of the number of members below the statutory minimum. If at any time the minimum number of members of the company fall below 2 in case of private company and below 7 in case of a public company, then the company can carry on the business for a period of 6 months. While the number is so reduced, every person who is a member of the company during the time that is still continues to carry on the business, knowing the fact that the minimum number of members is reduced and the grace period of 6 months is also finished, then as the case may be, the company and the member shall be held liable and can sue an amount which they made during those 6 months, or else the company may be severely sued therefore. Failure to refund application fee. The director of the company shall be jointly or severally liable to pay the money with an interest of 6% per annum from the date of the expiry of 113th day if they fail to repay the application money without interest within 120 days when the company fails to allot shares. Misdescription of the company's name. An officer of the organization who signs any bill of trade, hundi, promissory note, check wherein the name of the organization is not referenced in the recommended way, such official can be held personally liable to the holder of the bill of trade, hundi, except if it is properly paid by the company. Next is a fraudulent trading. Under section 339 of the Companies Act, if in the course of the winding up of the company it appears that any business of the company has been carried on with the intent to defraud the creditor of the company or any other person, or for any fraudulent purpose, the tribunal, on the application of the official liquidator or the company liquidator or any creditor or the contributory of the company, may, if it thinks it proper so to do, declare that any person who is or has been a director, manager or officer of the company, or any persons who were knowingly parties to the carrying on of the business in the manner aforesaid shall be personally responsible without any limitation of liability for all or any of the debts or other liabilities of the company as the tribunal may direct. Every person who had the knowledge of such fraud will be punishable with an imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years and with a fine which may extend to 50,000 or with both for investigating company's ownership. Under section 216 of the Companies Act 2013, the central government may appoint inspectors to investigate and report on the membership of the company for the purpose of determining the true individuals who are financially entrusted in the company and who controls its policy. Thus, the central government may ignore the corporate veil. Conclusion: a company has a legal personality just like all other individuals. The only difference between the company is that even with its legal personality cannot run or conduct its affair as a natural person does. Thus, the company acts on the concept of the corporate veil. This veil, when misused for the fraudulent acts, will reveal the true nature and real beneficiaries of the company, thus called the lifting of the corporate veil. Thus, the court from time to time implemented this rule and also brought in a few changes suitable for the situations and for the future reference. Thank you.